most tumultuous mart, and you are formed to graze it, but you will break my heart. My love might have to scorn it, enough sense it gets cure, but be love to lose you, I never can endure.
Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. The sun hung low over the Thames, casting a brooding light across the anchored yawl Nelly. 5 men sat in quiet idleness. The director companies, who captained the craft, the lawyer, the accountant, a frame narrator among them, and Marlow, the weathered sailor whose eyes seemed to hold depths beyond the river's reach. As the tide waited to turn, Marlow broke the silence. He spoke of how this very river, now a pathway of civilization, had once been a place of darkness when the Romans first came, 1900 years ago, how the wilderness had pressed in upon them with savagery. And this also, he said, gazing toward London, has been one of the dark places of the earth. From there, his voice carried him into another tale, one that had happened not long before, when it ventured into the heart of another continent. Marlow had always been drawn to maps as a boy, especially the blank spaces that invited exploration. When one vast white patch in Africa caught his eye, the Congo Basin, he resolved to go there. Years later, after returning from the East as a freshwater sailor, he sought a command on that river. His aunt in Brussels helped secure him a position with the company, a Belgian enterprise trading in ivory. He traveled to Sepulchral City, signed papers in offices that smelled of dust and decay, and soon boarded a French steamer bound for the coast. The voyage down the African shoreline felt endless. The ship stopped at ports where heat and silence reigned. At last, Marlow reached the company's outer station. There, chaos greeted him. A railway was being built into the interior, but progress seemed a mockery. He walked down a narrow ravine and came upon a place of chained natives digging, their bodies wasted, eyes vacant. They had come to work, and now lay dying in the shade, too sick to move. A boiler hissed uselessly nearby. Marlow offered a biscuit to one dying man, who took it mechanically, then let it fall. In the station's office, he met the chief accountant, impeccably dressed in starched linen amid the filth. The man spoke calmly of figures while groans rose from the dying outside. It was here Marlow first heard the name Kurtz, an exceptional agent, the accountant said, a man destined to go far, who sent him more ivory than all the others combined. After 10 days, Marlow set out on foot with a caravan of 60 men for the 200-mile trek to the central station. The journey was grueling. Carriers deserted. Supplies dwindled. One man hanged himself in despair. At last they arrived. The central station was a cluster of buildings half-built, machinery rusting under sheds. Marlow's steamboat, the one he was to command, lay sunk at the bottom of the river, rammed in some accident. The general manager, a cold man with an envious smile, greeted him without warmth. The steamer would take months to raise and repair. No rivets could be found. Everything was delayed. While waiting, Marlow repaired what he could and overheard conversations. The manager spoke of Kurtz with veiled resentment. Kurtz was ill, perhaps, yet still sent ivory. A brickmaker, idle because no bricks could be made without straw. Gossiped that Kurtz was a universal genius, a voice of the idea behind the company's work. Marlow grew curious about this man who seemed to inspire both admiration and fear. One evening, lying on the deck of his half-salvage boat, Marlow overheard the manager and his uncle, who had arrived at the El Dorado exploring expedition. They whispered of Kurtz's success, how he threatened their positions. The uncle urged patience. The jungle would take care of him. Months passed. The boat was finally afloat. Marlow took command with a manager, some pilgrims carrying staves, and a crew of cannibals who proved steady and restrained. They steamed up the Congo, the river narrowing, the jungle closing in. Silence pressed upon them, broken only by the thud of wood or distant drums. The pilgrims grew nervous at every shadow. About 50 miles below the interstation, they found an abandoned hut with a woodpile neatly stacked and a note warning caution. An English book on seamanship lay there, its margins filled with cryptic pencil notes. They took on the wood and pressed on. Fog descended thickly one morning. Marlow anchored. When it lifted slightly, arrows rained from the shore. The pilgrims fired blindly into the trees. The native helmsman, struck by a spear, fell at Marlow's feet, blood pooling. Marlow pulled the whistle cord again and again. The shrieks scattered the attackers. The helmsman died. Marlow tossed his body overboard to avoid the stench. They reached the inner station at last. A Russian harlequin in patched clothes met them on shore, wild-eyed and enthusiastic. He had nursed Kurtz through illness, he said. Kurtz was a remarkable man, a voice, a force. The natives revered him as a god. He had led raids for ivory, and heads on stakes surrounded his house. Proof of his methods. The Russian admitted Kurtz had ordered the attack on the steamer to frighten them away. A procession emerged from the trees. Natives carried Kurtz on a stretcher. He was emaciated, ghostly, yet commanding. When warriors massed, ready to fight, Kurtz spoke, and they withdrew. The pilgrims carried him aboard. A magnificent native woman stood on the shore, adorned in brass and barbaric splendor, staring at the boat with tragic intensity. That night Kurtz slipped away. Marlow followed into darkness and found him crawling toward the camp. He confronted him, whispering that if Kurtz raised an alarm, he would shoot. Kurtz, weak, lamented he had not done enough. Marlow persuaded him back to the steamer. They departed at dawn. Kurtz's strength failed rapidly. He entrusted Marlow with papers, a report for the International Society for Suppression of Savage Customs, eloquent and idealistic, ended with a scrawled postscript. Exterminate all the brutes. The steamer halted for repairs. Kurtz, dying, spoke to Marlow of his plans, his voice a whisper in the night. At the end, he cried out, the horror, and was gone. The pilgrims buried him in mud, without ceremony. Marlow fell soon after, nearly dying himself. When he recovered, he returned to Europe, the city of sepulchres seeming hollow and false. People came for Kurtz's belongings. Marlow gave a report to journalists, kept letters and a photograph. Kurtz's intended, his fiancée, lived in a house of mourning. Over a year had passed, yet she grieved as of yesterday. She spoke of Kurtz's greatness, his genius, his promise. She asked for his last words. Marlow hesitated. The truth would shatter her. He lied. He said Kurtz's last word had been her name. The framed narrator looked up. The Thames stretched dark and quiet before them. The light had faded. Marlow sat silent, his tale complete. The director murmured something about the tide. The yawl stirred at last, ready to move into the night.
You say that life is wasted in such a peaceful scene, and must I then remind you how happy we have been? I know you sighed to enter the world's tumultuous march. You are formed to graze it, but you will break my heart. My love might have to scorn it in absence it gets cured. I'd be loved to lose you, I never can endure. You go to Catherine, but passer you depart. I shall not live to see them. Your loss will break my heart.